Wallpapering might seem like something that you need to get the professionals in for, but that's just not true. I'm going to walk you through step by step just how to wallpaper a room, whether you're a beginner or you've done this before. I'm Sheree. I'm going to show you how I gave this room a glow up using wallpaper. You can't wallpaper over your problems as much as I'd like to, and that's why prep is so important. Before you do anything, make sure that you protect your floors with a dust sheet. If you've got any wallpaper already on the walls, make sure you remove that. And if you live in an old house where the walls might be quite bumpy, maybe use a lining paper. This will just make a really smooth foundation. If you do have any damp or mold, you will need to address that before you put any wallpaper on. Maybe consult an expert, but your wallpaper just won't stick and it'll look awful. Check your walls for any lumps or bumps or things that you need to fill in. I just like to use polyfiller. I've got a little bit of a hole here and fill that. And then once that's dry, sand it off. You can grab yourself a cloth, clean off the walls. If they're greasy, use sugar soap. Let's talk wallpaper. There are 3 kinds that you need to know about. There's paste the wall, paste the paper, and self-adhesive. Today, I'm going to use paste the wall because that's the easiest one to use for beginners. There are loads of wallpaper designs and textures to suit any taste, but I'm going to go for a delicate floral design. So how much wallpaper do I need? Luckily, B&Q have got a really handy online tool. Just type in the dimensions of the room, whether you've got any windows or doors, and it will tell you exactly how many rolls you need to use. A pro tip is when you're buying rolls of wallpaper to check the batch numbers. If you get rolls from a different batch, they might have variations in colour or pattern. It's always worth buying more rolls of wallpaper than you think you'll need so you can get them all from the same batch. If you've got a long flat wall, just measure the whole length of the wall. If, like me, you've got a feature like this chimney breast, measure the feature and you want to find the middle spot. And then you can use your roll as a guide to measure. You just want to make sure that you're not left with a small overhang or underhang because that'll be really visible when you're wallpapering. If that's the case, you can adjust your middle spot just a little bit so you've got enough to go around corners. Now we know where we're hanging the wallpaper, we need a perfectly straight vertical line to work from. So you can hang a plumb line, you can use a spirit level, or you can use a laser level like me. And I'm going to use my laser line and my trusty spirit level to just draw a pencil line half a roll's width away from my pencil mark. So I've got a perfectly straight vertical starting point and I'll start my wallpapering from there. So now I'm going to cut lengths of the wallpaper. The rule of thumb is to add 10 centimetres, so it gives you a bit of leeway on the wall, but make sure you check your pattern repeat because you might have to add a little bit more into those lengths just so you don't have any gaps at the top or bottom. And I'm going to batch cut some strips of wallpaper as well. A trick when you're cutting your wallpaper lengths is to make a mark where you need to cut to and then fold the wallpaper back on itself. So you've got a nice clear line of where you need to cut. And once you've done that, just repeat so you've got a nice batch to work with and make sure your wallpaper's laid flat so you don't get any creases. I've got my big tub of wallpaper paste. Now there are a few kinds that you can use. One's where you paste the wall, one's where you paste the paper. This one actually does both. Or you can get the powdered stuff and mix it yourself, but make sure to read the manufacturer's instructions so you know which consistency to mix it to. You can use a brush or a roller for this paste. I'm going classic and using a brush. So if our wallpaper is going to be here, you want to leave a little bit either side so that you're pasting a little bit over the area where the wallpaper is going to go. And just work your way down the wall. I very cleverly marked the top of it earlier so I know which way to start from. So this paste will allow you a little bit of movement and slip so that you can get things in position. So leave a little bit at the top which we'll cut off afterwards. Got a smoothing brush, that's dry, just to smooth out any bubbles or imperfections I work from the middle out and work all the way down. If you've got any bigger bubbles or ripples, use a smoothing tool just to push those out to the edge. It's really, really useful. If you get any wallpaper paste on the edge of your wallpaper, do not worry, just wipe that off with a damp cloth or sponge. Push the wallpaper into the wall where it meets the skirting board to give me a nice defined line. I'm going to use a straight edge just to get a really, really clean straight line and a blade. Of course, always wear gloves. I'm just going to repeat the process on the top. It's a bit stuck. Hopefully it's level. Yeah, perfect. But there is another kind of method that you can use where you paste the wallpaper. So starting from the bottom, I'm going to get my paste. So I'm just flicking off the paste towards the edges. I'm just going to concertina it so that it's not draping down when I come to go at the wall. And then I can continue to paste the rest of the wallpaper, repeating that method. Starting from the top, you're going to get it nice and straight and use a brush to get it up into the corner of the top of your wall or your cornice. And then just use the brush to brush out the paste from centre outwards. And because I use that concertina method, it's much easier, it's less messy, and works section by section. I will say that the paste the wall method is slightly easier, so if you're a beginner, maybe try with that first. It's really important to pattern match. So because we've pasted the wall, you can move your wallpaper around. So just take the time to make sure that the patterns perfectly match up, and make sure you're really pushing the pieces of wallpaper close together. Really push that in because you don't want to end up with any gaps at all. I've got this really handy roller tool which is really useful for when you're just straightening out and flattening seams. It's better to have your wallpaper kind of really pushed up against each other rather than having any gaps whatsoever, because it can contract when it's dry. So I just roll over the seams to really flatten it. If you're wallpapering around a corner, use your thumb just to find the edge of the wall, and then you're going to cut a little incision, and then that should make it much easier to bring the wallpaper around the side of the wall. When you're wallpapering an internal corner, you don't want it to be baggy, so make sure you really push it into the corner. You'll need a smoothing tool to do this. All the way down to the bottom, you're going to make a small incision and then just cut away the excess. So I turned off the electricity and unscrewed my plug socket, and this is because it's easier to go under the socket than to try and wallpaper around it. I'm going to find the centre of the socket and make a small incision. Be careful of your fingers, obviously. And then I'm going to cut out towards the corners and make a cross. This will be hidden behind the back of the socket. Trim off your excess. Very carefully push the paper behind the socket. So once you've pulled your socket through, just use your brush to work the paper behind the socket. So I'll just continue smoothing using my tool. There we go, I think it's looking quite good. I've reached my final obstacle, the window. Line up the pattern and line up the wallpaper with the previous piece using your smoothing tools. Work the wallpaper into the corner of the window and really work it into that edge. Then I'll grab my trusty straight edge and I'll score it with a knife. I'll repeat the process for the top and the bottom of the window. So for areas like this where there's not a lot of wall, it's the perfect opportunity to use any offcuts. Just make sure that you pattern match them. That's perfect, actually. And you can reduce your wastage. And there we have it, a perfectly wallpapered room. I don't know about you, but I think it looks great in here. I'm so glad that I took the time to use the proper tools, to pattern match, smooth down all my edges, take the radiator, even removing the radiator to make sure that it looks really clean, fresh and crisp. I love a bit of pattern, and I didn't have to get the decorators in. Hopefully you found that video helpful. The full list of products that I use is listed in the description. If you liked this video, give us a like, comment and subscribe to B&Q for more how-to videos.